Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
To protect our brain from the outside world, in case we get conked on the head with something, we have a very hard skull. But what protects our brain from things that are inside of us that do not belong in our brain? We have a powerful shield called our blood-brain barrier, and it's pretty complex. Here's the issue. With age, it could get a little bit porous, it could get a little bit leaky, and things could get into our brain that don't belong in there. So what exactly would our blood-brain barrier be protecting us from? Well, we do have viruses and bacteria in the body, but there's also waste products, byproducts of energy utilization, muscle function, toxins, but even our own immune system. These have to be kept out of our brain. And that's what the blood-brain barrier does. And we have cells. The blood-brain barrier is very complex. There's a lot of cells involved with it. We have cells called astrocytes. They kind of look like stars. They do a number of things, like they could feed the brain, etc. They can work as the brain's immune system. But one of the things they do is astrocytes that are located close to the blood-brain barrier have the ability to repair the blood-brain barrier. And this, to a degree, is dependent on a gene called sirtuin-1. Sirtuin-1 is a gene that's involved with longevity and survival and preventing disease and the utilization of energy. So cells that repair the blood-brain barrier, astrocytes, what activates them is sirtuin-1. And there's a balance between activation and deactivation, so you can allow certain things into the brain. And sometimes there's an imbalance and the blood-brain barrier that shields our brain becomes leaky. Resveratrol can help correct this. So welcome to my episode, Resveratrol and Brain Protection. My name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a nutritional pharmacist. I'm the senior scientific officer over here at Invite Health. I want to thank you for tuning into today's Invite Health podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts, or just visit invitehealth.com/podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Invite Health. The information on this episode is linked at the episode description. This will not be a long episode. So with age, sirtuin-1 levels decline in the brain. Now that affects the brain in many ways, plus the brain's connectivity to the body. So I'll just go over that quickly at the end of this podcast episode. But as sirtuin-1 activity in the brain declines, you're not repairing the blood-brain barrier as efficiently and effectively as you used to, and it starts to get leaky, it starts to get porous, and bad things get into the brain. And if this is severe enough, it's involved with diseases. Like an example of that would be multiple sclerosis, where your immune system is getting into your spine and your brain and destroying the myelin sheath on your nerves, which is very painful and disabling. Another example is Alzheimer's disease. There was a number of studies. Georgetown University was at the forefront of some of this research. And they found that something causes inflammation in the body. Whatever it might be. There could be a lot of things that inflame the body. It could be inhaling pollution. Could be smoking, it could be drinking alcohol, it could be diabetes. Diabetes triggers a lot of inflammation in the body. It could be obesity, it could be severe high blood pressure. And the inflammation is inflaming and damaging the blood-brain barrier, which then becomes leaky. And things are getting into the brain that don't belong there. This is inflaming the brain, and it swells. And when it swells, it's no longer capable of detoxifying. The lymphatic system is not working well to break things down and remove them. So, because there's always byproducts of energy utilization that build up in the brain, etc. So you get the buildup of a toxic protein, a protein that potentially becomes toxic called beta amyloid, and it forms these chains called oligomers that poison your brain cells and kill your nerve tissue in your brain. It's called a tauopathy, and there you go, you have Alzheimer's. So in some of these studies, Georgetown and other universities and research institutions, including the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic, showed that giving Alzheimer's patients resveratrol was helping the Alzheimer's patients function better and even remember a little bit better. And when they rolled up their sleeves and really dug down into the data, the Georgetown University researchers saw that it was repairing the blood-brain barrier. Then the bad things could no longer penetrate into the brain. Inflammation of the brain went down, and when inflammation went down, so did swelling. And the brain was able to restart the detoxification mechanisms and break down some of these plaques and remove them. So this leakiness of the blood-brain barrier is involved with severe diseases of the brain, including Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, and multiple sclerosis. So resveratrol is triggering repairing of the blood-brain barrier. And what it seems to be doing is it's restoring sirtuin-1 activity in the brain. Sirtuin-1 activity is reactivating the astrocytes to actually repair the blood-brain barrier. This makes it really worthwhile having a high-quality resveratrol as a supplement, I would say in your 50s. I would certainly say in your 50s. There was this very interesting researcher at MIT, Dr. Guarante. He did a lot of the early research on resveratrol, and he once said, starting to take resveratrol at the age of 50 will add 10 healthy years onto the back end of your life. Well, that sirtuin-1 gene that stimulates the release of sirtuin-1 protein does other things in the brain. It's involved with connectivity between the different organs of the brain, involved with memory, like the parahippocampal dentate gyrus, the entorhinal cortex, and the hippocampus for better memory. But it also reconnects the brain to the body, which is important because with aging, that affects your circadian rhythm, your body clock, your internal clock. You don't know what's up or down. You don't know if it's daytime to wake up or nighttime to go to sleep. So it really affects your rhythm. And this, of course, when you lose rhythm in the body, it accelerates the aging process, and it can lead to fragility and frailty. So this takes place through the great regulator in the brain called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus regulates the body. It's a part of the brain that regulates the body. What time you get hungry, what time you go to the bathroom, what time you go to sleep, what time you wake up, your body temperature, etc., energy production and metabolism. And it does this through two glands, the anterior and posterior pituitaries, that release hormones. So when you take resveratrol and you restore sirtuin-1 activity, not only are you helping repair the blood-brain barrier that keeps toxins out of the brain, which is a major, major win, you're also reconnecting different parts of the brain involved with memory and your internal GPS, etc. But you're also reconnecting the neuroendocrine system, the brain's control of the hormones in the body, like the release of growth factors after you exercise for your muscle, the release of cortisol to wake up in the morning, the release of melatonin to go to sleep at night, the release of thyroid hormone for metabolism and energy. So it's very important. Now, there is one other unbelievably good function of resveratrol for the brain that's really not the same as repairing the blood-brain barrier. It's restoring circulation to the brain. Resveratrol is probably the most vasoactive supplement you could take. In other words, restoring circulation throughout the body. This is especially important for the aging brain. The brain is about 3 pounds, but yet it uses 20% of the energy from each meal, typically. And to get all of that energy into the brain, you need a really good circulatory system. So you have these carotid arteries in your neck that supply the back and the front of the brain with blood and oxygen and nutrition and vitamins and minerals and everything it needs to function. With age, these blood vessels, their lining stiffens and thickens. This happens to all your blood vessels around the body. It's a natural thing. It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing, but they stiffen and thicken. They've shown in a number of human clinical trials, such as the Resveratrol study that took place in Australia, 2-year-long study. Eventually 200 women were either on placebo or resveratrol for a year each, that resveratrol strongly restored circulation to the aging brain and was very good for memory functions and cognitive functions. So resveratrol is doing a lot of things for the brain. And I do strongly recommend you get a good quality resveratrol as you grow older. Take it with food, it'll be absorbed better. If you could get some grapeseed in there and some quercetin, these are found in the plants where resveratrol is found. They improve the benefits, they amplify the benefits of the resveratrol. That's what research shows. Also, it has to be trans resveratrol. There is a cis resveratrol, which is a blood thinner. The one that's good for the brain and the heart and your blood sugar control and your bones and your muscles is trans resveratrol. Plus, you want it in a technology that protects it from light and oxygen, because both light and oxygen cause the decaying of the resveratrol. So how much do you need? Well, I usually take 200 milligrams every morning with my breakfast. I use something called Resveratrol Max. And the reason for that was research out of the Max Planck Institute in Germany and the Charité University Hospital. When they gave elderly people, and I'm getting there, I'm 67, when they gave elderly people 200 milligrams of resveratrol every day for 6 months, they found that their memory was improving. And when they were following the evidence, they found that resveratrol was restoring circulation to their aging brain. And when they restored circulation to the aging brain, it affected connectivity in the brain. We call it neurovascular coupling. When circulation was restored to the brain, the organs in the brain involved with memory were reverting to a much younger, healthier period of life. They were functioning better and memory improved. They saw the improvement in these organs when they were doing these very powerful functional MRIs of the brain. So every morning with my breakfast, I take 200 milligrams of resveratrol. But there's also studies showing even 75 or 100 milligrams of resveratrol is good for the brain. So anywhere between 75 to 200 milligrams, you should be fine for your brain function. But you need to take it daily. And there really is a lot of data on it being very helpful for brain health at this point. So I want to thank you for tuning into the Invite Health podcast today. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts, or just visit invitehealth.com/podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Invite Health. Hope to see you next time in another episode of the Invite Health podcast. Thanks for listening. Jerry Hickey signing off.